Alright, today we're going to just be doing some drill with graphing quadratics. So yesterday I told you to take a look at 23 through 31, pick a couple of them to try out. I'm going to do as many of them as I can today, just to give you an idea of, again, what's going on and checking your work to see if you're on the right track. So I'm going to start with 23, and I'll walk you through each of the steps. Just keeping in mind what you know and the procedures on how to do it. The procedures are outlined in the PowerPoint that I provided, so you can follow along with that as well. Good morning, Gabby. Glad you're awake. Doesn't look like too many people are joining us this morning. But yeah, we're just going to do some drill on it. Again, I'm not really collecting it because it's going to be hard for me to read. However you choose to do it, but I do expect you to do it. It's not too difficult. There's just a lot of steps to it. And yeah, so we'll get started. So first step is to find our axis of symmetry. And again, you're going to use x equals negative b over 2a. And again, just off to the side, we're going to list our a, b, and c to keep things straight. Don't forget our signs. This is a 1, this is a negative 9, and this is a 3. So this is going to equal positive 9 over 2 times a, which is 1. So your axis of symmetry is going to equal 9 over 2, which is going to be 4/2, so 4.5. So our line of symmetry is over here at 4.5. In the middle of 5 and 4 there. And again, you can make your axis so it actually has, you can count by 0.5s if you wanted to for your axis. It just makes it a little easier for you to graph. I'm not going to go and find another axis that's like that, so I'm using this one. So that's 4.5 is your axis of symmetry. Then you want your vertex, which is going to be 4.5 on the x. We don't know that. And something on the y. So we're going to plug into this to get your y. Y equals 4.5 squared minus 9 times 4.5 plus 3. You can go ahead and use a calculator to solve that. I don't expect you to do this in your head. So 4.5 squared is going to give me 20.25. Negative 9 times 4.5, so 4.5 times 9 gives us 40.5. That's negative. And then you have 3. Then we're just going to add those up. Minus 40.5 plus 3. And we're going to get negative 17.25, which is kind of an ugly number, but that's what I'm getting. Means we're probably going to have to move our graph up. Let me find our graph. I don't know if I have all the graphs there. Just get rid of our graph and bring it in again. In this case, I want that negative 17 over there. So line of symmetry is at 4.5. And our vertex is at negative 17.25 on that line. So negative 17.25 is about right here. Make your vertex. Next we want to find our y-intercept, which is equal to c. So that is 3, so that's on point 0, 3. Which is up here. And again, you're going to have the reflection over here as well. And then you're going to find another points. Just plug something in and see what you get. Let's plug in 1, because it's probably the easiest to deal with. So XY table, we're going to say 1. And you get y equals 1 squared minus 9 times 1 plus 3. 1 squared is 1. Negative 9 times 1 is negative 9 plus 3. You're going to get, what is that? That's negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Yep, negative 5. So at 1, you're at negative 5, so we're about here. And again, that's going to give you the reflection point as well. And then you can just connect your dots in a nice curve the best you can. And that's our graph. It also says to identify the line of symmetry in the vertex. So here is your vertex. And your line of symmetry is identified right here as x equals 4.5. The line of symmetry. So again, we're just graphing today, going over some of the problems I asked you to do yesterday. I told you to pick a couple of these to work on. Check your answers, see if you're getting something kind of like me. Again, just based off of A here, we know that it's positive A, so we know that it is opening upward like that, and we have a min. And that makes sense. We have it going upwards, and we have a min. So let's see what I can delete here. Not deleting everything. I don't know what you're running. Yep. We can delete this layer. Get our graph back up there. And let's look at 24. 24 is in the term of f of x equals negative x squared minus 4x minus 6. In this case, again, you want to start with your line of symmetry, or axis of symmetry, I guess is what it's called. And again, that's going to be where x equals negative b over 2a. So over here, I'm going to write a is going to be negative 1 here because we have a negative coefficient here. B is going to be negative 4 here because our coefficient is negative 4, and c is going to be negative 6. So everything is negative here, which means this is actually going to be positive because, well, actually, no, this will be negative 2 because negative b would be positive 4. And then 2 times a, which is negative 1, is going to give you 4 over negative 2, which is going to reduce down to just negative 2. So your line of symmetry is at negative 2. So throw that up. Negative 2. Next, we're going to look for our vertex. Because we know the line of symmetry, x is at negative 2, our negative 2 is going to be our x value, and we're going to plug in negative 2 to our f of x here, and we're going to get our y value. Keep in mind, just watch your order of operations and watch your signs. This -2 is being squared, so that becomes a +4, but then you make it negative, so then we have a -4. And then you have a -2 times a -4, which gives you a +8, and then you have a -6. So what is that? That equals -2, I believe. 4 plus 6 gives you -10. -10 minus, or 10 minus the 8 gives you a 2. 10's larger, so -2. So your vertex is at -2, comma -2. Pretty easy to find. You're right here. And again, our line of symmetry is right there. So when it says to graph things, it's asking for where the vertex is. Here's your vertex, line of symmetry right here. Continue to go on, though. To graph it, we need our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is equal to our c value, and our c value is -6. So it's going to be at 0, -6. Again, y-intercept always has x being 0. Right, if I plugged in 0 for x, what would I get for y? I get -6, so that's down here. Keeping in mind your line of symmetry is here, so we also have a point 1, 2, 1, 2 right here reflected over that line of symmetry. We can see that this is going to look like it's opening downward, which makes sense because we have a -1 for A, and we should have a max at our vertex. To there, so then we're going to find another point. And looking over what we didn't use -1. That should be an easy one to do. That'll make everything here positive to deal with. So that'll be fun. So let's do x is -1. What do we get for y? Plug it in. We get f of -1 equals -1 squared, keeping in mind the negative here. I should write it like this. The negatives are going to be dealt with like that. And 4 times -1 and -6. Bleeding into the graph. That's fine. -1 squared is +1, then we make it negative, so that's -1. Then -4 times -1 gives you a +4. And then we have a -6. So some things turn positive. Here we have -6 plus -1 gives you -7. Add a 4 and you're at -3. So -1 is at -3. And that's making sense. It's kind of fitting in line. And remember, our next point will be from the symmetry of that. It goes there. So this one looks like, that was horrible. This is not going to be any better. It goes like that. We have our vertex here. And that makes sense. It's a max, and so on. I don't remember what all was in this layer. I don't think the picture is. Of course, that part of the picture is not. Delete the layer. We're going to graph back, and let's look at the next one, which is 25. 25, we are looking at f of x equals x squared minus 2x plus 1. So let's find our axis of symmetry first. Axis of symmetry, again, x equals -b over 2a. So we have our a value is a +1, which means we should be looking at it opening upwards and having a min B value is -2, and C value is +1. So we're going to get negative B, which is 2, and 2 times A, which is 1. Do we have to do all of them? You should know how to do all of them. Do you have to do all of them? No. If you get tired and bored of doing this and need a break, take a break. If you understand what's going on, you should be all right. But I just know it takes practice, Adam. That's what we're doing today is we're practicing. You got to get good at it so you can understand how we do the next steps. And it does take some work, and there's a lot of steps to it. We just got to get them down. So if you feel comfortable with it, you can just watch this later, try a couple, and see if it matches with what I did. But just keep on top of it. I'm not collecting any of it because I won't be able to read any of it anyways, so I'm just going to trust that you guys are doing it. And our A value is 1. So this is going to equal 2 over 2, which equals 1. So our line of symmetry is at 1. So we're over here for our line of symmetry. So x equals 1 is our line of symmetry. Next we're going to find our vertex. Our vertex is going to have the x-coordinate of 1, and the y-coordinate we'll have to figure out when we plug in f of 1 equals 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 1. In that case, you get 1 squared is 1, minus 2 times 1 gives you -2, plus 1 gives you that, and this all equals -2. So our vertex is at 1, -2, which is down here. I guess I don't like the symmetry tool all that much. It's right here. Next we want to find y-intercepts. Y-intercept is going to be equal to c, which is 1, so that's at 0, 1, which is up here. Knowing that line of symmetry, you know this is also a point on the graph because of the reflection. And we want to find another point, which will be, I don't know, let's do x is 3. Plug in f of 3, you're going to get 3 squared minus 2 times 3 plus 1. 3 squared is 9, minus 2 times 3 is -6, plus 1. You get, what is that, +3, +4. Getting 4, so 3 is coming up to 4 here. There's that point, and then get its reflection, 1, 2, 1, 2, right there. And this here is your graph. Again, it is a curve. This one's not supposed to be a V, but it should be a curve like a parabola. I'm just not good at drawing with the stylus. So that's 25. That layer. I should make a layer with just a graph in it. In front. All right, let's look at 26. What does that mean, Nora? I have no clue. Are you just like smashing your face into the keyboard? I know these kind of get boring after a while, but again, you got to get good at them. So. Oh, okay. It's alright, Nora. It happens. Let's see. You probably see my Steam message in the bottom corner there. My buddy's trying to talk to me. Yeah. So I got distractions too. We got... what are we doing? Oh yeah, graphing this. So we got an A value, a B value, and a C value. A equals 2, B equals positive 1, and C equals negative 3. This being positive, you know it's going to open upwards, and you're going to have a min. Let's find our axis of symmetry. In that case, you're going to say x equals negative b over 2a. Same as always, negative b is going to be negative 1 here. 2 times a, which is 2, and you're going to get negative 1 over 4. So x is going to equal negative 1/4. You might like that as a decimal just to deal with things later on. So we could say that's negative 0.25, but our line of symmetry is going to be negative 1/4, which is like right there-ish. That might be like 1/3-ish, but anyways, negative 0.25. So finding our vertex, that's our x value, negative 0.25. And when I plug that into my formula, what do I get? Well, y equals 2 times negative 0.25 to the second plus negative 0.25 times 1, which doesn't change anything, minus 3. Don't forget your order of operations, do exponents first. So you have 0.25 to the second, which is going to give you a positive 0.026 or 0.0625. Now we're going to multiply that by negative 2. No, that's an equal sign, by positive 2. And we're going to get 0.125, which is 1/8. If you're doing fraction-wise, which might be easier. I don't know. That's 1/8. Plus, what is that? Negative 0.25 minus 3 gives you negative 3.25, which, if you're doing fractions, is negative 3 and 1/4. Then we're going to add those, so plus 0.125. We're getting what is that? Negative 3.125, which is negative 3 1/8 if you do the fractions. So negative 3.125, 1/8 is going to be tough to get in on here. Let's get rid of that. 3 1/8, let's say, is about here. Not the greatest, but close enough for what we're doing. Y-intercept equals C, which is negative 3. So that's coming really close. Makes sense. And this one's going to be reflected over this way or somewhere. Again, just kind of guessing. It's getting tight there because it's very close to the vertex, so we're going to pick a number that's kind of further away when we find our another point. Let's find the point where x is 2. So I'm going to be looking at something probably up around this way-ish. But we'll see. 2, so we're plugging in, we get 2 times 2 squared plus 2 minus 3. 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8 plus 10 minus 3 is 7. So you're looking at 2 comma 7, which is kind of right where we thought it would be up there. And again, that's going to get reflected over. However, it's not going to be nice. So instead of reflecting it, I'll just pick another point. I can do negative 2 as well. Just running out of room almost. replug it in. -2, so let's do 2 times -2 squared minus 2 minus 3. That still gives you 4, this still gives you 8. -2 minus 3 equals a positive 3. So -2, you're at 3. So this side's going to look like that, and this side's going to look like that. And that's not too bad of a parabola for me, actually. So we got the 5 points, and you can graph it. It looks something like that, and it's kind of following the model that we thought it would be. It's not very flat because A is 2. You do have a coefficient there, so it's working out good. I am not going to have time to do all of these today. If there's any specific ones that you would like to look at, throw in the comments. But hopefully this is all one layer. Yeah, look at that. So let's look at 27. Plus 3x plus 2. Again, I know A is going to be 1, I know B is going to be 3, and I know C is going to be 2. Axis of symmetry is my first step. X equals negative B over 2A. Negative B is negative 3. 2 is a constant. A is 1. This equals negative 3 halves, which, if you like the decimal, is negative 1.5. So our X value is negative 1.5. And our Y value will be, well, this is for vertex. Oh, let's get our line of symmetry in there so we get a view of where it's at. It's around there. Here we're going to plug in negative 1.5 to find our vertex. The whole thing is getting squared, so negative sign included. Negative 1 point squared is going to give us 2.25 plus 3 times 1.5 is 4.5 plus 2, and you get negative 2.25 plus 2 plus negative 4.5. We're looking at a negative 4.75. So again, line of symmetry is at negative 1.5. Your graph is going to cross that line at negative 4.75. So you're down here-ish. Let's see, y-intercept, pretty easy to find because it equals c. C is 2. So that is 0, 2. So that's up here. Looking at your line of symmetry, you know that's over 1.5. 1.5 will be here. So you get that line of symmetry going. You get an idea of how your graph is opening up and looking, which makes sense. It's positive. It should be opening upwards. And find another point. Let's look at, we can do 1. 1 is normally a good point to find. XY table. Find 1 for 1. Y equals 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 2. 1 squared is 1 plus 3 times 1 is 1 plus 2 equals 6. So 1 is at 6. And again, you can use symmetry to find that because this is halfway through. Or you can plug in another number like we did the last one. 1, 2.5. Half 1, 2 should be over here. And you get the idea of this graph here. Going up like that. Should we just delete the layer? Let's look at 28. This is probably the last one I'm going to do. And again, we're just doing some drill here. Y equals negative x plus 8x minus 5. So again, axis of symmetry is first. Well, let's get A, B, and C. Pretty easy to pull out. You don't necessarily have to write them, but it's going to help for when we do quadratic formulas. So get in the habit of it. There's A, B, and C. X equals negative b over 2a. So that is negative b is negative 8. 2 times negative 1. This equals negative 8 over negative 2, which equals 4. So the line of symmetry is at 4. X equals 4. So it's right there. The vertex is, well, where x equals 4. What does y equal? So let's plug it in. Y equals negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 minus 5. Negative 4 squared is 16 plus 8 times negative 4 is negative 32, and then minus 5. So we're getting pretty high up in there. What is that? 16 minus 32 is just negative 16 minus 5 is negative 21. So that equals negative 21. I don't have enough room for that, do I? That's okay. Our thing is going down, so let's say here's 20, here's 21. You're up that high. So our vertex is at 4, 21. This here is our max. We should be getting a max because this is negative, so that's not going any higher than that. Let's get our y-intercept, which is the easiest, because that equals c, and c equals negative 5. So 0, negative 5 is a point, which is all the way down here. This guy's going to be big. And let's get another point in between, and let's do 1. So we get y equals negative 1 squared. Oh, this is wrong. This is a negative x. So this is a negative 16. So that's way higher than we wanted. We're just going to, yeah, because we're just going to screw that up. I lost that negative sign there. So this is going to be a negative 16, which is going to make this really big. And I'm not going to have a lot of room. So yeah, my graph isn't going to be large enough for this, so we're going to stop with that one. I'll do another one. I have time to do another one, but sorry about that. I lost that negative sign. Is that all I lost? Yeah. I'll just do another one. What was that? 29. Let's say 29. Y equals, see if the graph is going to work for this. 1/4 x squared plus 2x plus 1. With the fraction here, you know this should be fairly flatter compared to the other ones we've been doing, just because a is less than 1, but not still positive, not 0, and less than 1. So a equals 1/2 here, so we should be looking at a positive thing, but it should be fairly wide. So just keep that in mind. B equals 2 and C equals 1. Axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. Negative b is negative 2. 2 times a, 2 times 1/2 is 1. So that is negative 2 over 1, which equals negative 2. So our axis of symmetry is at negative 2. Move that guy over. Our vertex is going to be negative 2 comma something. Plug in negative 2 for this, we get y equals 1/2 times negative 2 squared plus 2 times negative 2 plus 1. Negative 2 squared is 4. Half of 4 is 2. Plus 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 plus 1. That gives you negative 1. Right? 2 plus 1 is 3. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So that gives you negative 1. So we're at 2 and negative 1. We're right here. Which makes sense because our line of symmetry is right. Oh, I'm sorry, negative 2. Oh, that's in the same layer. I didn't change layers. Undo. Do it that way. We're at negative 2, negative 1, which is over here. Sorry about that. Good thing I double checked that. Watch your graphing. Y-intercept is easy to find. Y-intercept equals C and C equals 1, so your y-intercept is 0, 1. And it's already looking pretty flat, so that's over 2, over 2. There's its reflection over the line of symmetry, and we can find another value, and let's go with an even number because we want this 1/2 to make more sense. So we're going to pick factors of the denominator to do fractions. If you recall from way back when we were looking at some functions with fractions in it, try to pick factors of the denominator if you're picking numbers. So we're going to pick x equals 2. You get the positive version of all of that. And how that's going to change is really just going to change that sign. So 2 squared, well here, let's rewrite it. Y equals 1/2 times 2 squared plus 2 times 2 plus 1. 2 squared is 4, half of 4 is still 2. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1. That gives you 5, 6, 7. So 2 comma 7. 2 and 7 is up here. And the reflection points 1, 2, 3, 4 to the line of symmetry. 1, 2, 3, 4 away from the line of symmetry. So you should look like that. But yeah, if you're still having trouble with it, practice some. I can make you a couple videos if you need to go over some of them. But yeah, that's where we're going to stop. Next week we're going to get into radicals, I think. Yeah, we're going to be doing square roots and stuff like that, all building up to the quadratic formula. So you need to be able to do this, and you need to be able to do factoring, and you need to be able to do square roots and radicals in order to understand the quadratic formula. And then once you understand the quadratic formula, it all just gets easier because you can just plug into that and that solves it for you. So yeah, and if you have questions on any of it, shoot me an email, but we're going to stop there for today. Enjoy your break. There is no school tomorrow, no school Friday, no school Monday, and I will talk with you on Tuesday unless you want to email and chat then. But yeah, have a good break. Stay active. Don't just sit around your house all day. All right, so long.